There is a verse hidden in the middle of the book of Psalms that almost nobody has memorized. It was written by a man on the run. He had been chased out of his own country, across the border, deep into enemy territory, the hometown of the man he had killed years before. He was sleeping in the city of Gath, surrounded by soldiers who had every reason to kill him. And in the middle of that fear, in that city, on the run from his own king, he wrote one of the strangest sentences in the entire Bible. He wrote, "God, you have put my tears in a bottle. Are they not in your book?" We will get back to that verse. But not yet, because before we get there, we need to talk about something most people never say out loud. You have cried in places nobody saw. Not the kind of crying you do at a funeral where the tears are expected and the tissues are passed around and people put their arms around you. Not the kind people notice and ask about. The other kind. The kind you do in a parked car before you go inside and pretend everything is fine. The kind you do in the shower with the water running too loud for anyone down the hall to hear. The kind you do at 3 a.m. with your face pressed into a pillow, trying to keep quiet because the person sleeping next to you or in the next room does not need to carry what you are carrying. The kind you hide from the people who love you most. This is not a story about weakness. This is not a story about therapy or emotional intelligence. This is not a story about learning to be more vulnerable with your family. This is a story about a God who has been watching every single time. The Bible is full of people who cried where nobody could see them. A slave woman who walked away from her dying child because she could not bear to watch it happen. A woman in a temple who wept so hard that no sound came out and was accused of being drunk by the priest who should have recognized grief. A man in a foreign palace who turned away from his brothers mid-conversation because something broke open in his chest and he could not let them see his face. A king who wrote about God keeping his tears in a container like something worth saving. And at the very end of this story, the Son of God himself, face pressed to the ground in a dark garden, weeping while the people closest to him slept. All of them wept alone. None of them were alone. Pay attention to this, because the pattern is older than you think, and it runs all the way from a desert in Beersheba to a garden outside Jerusalem. And by the time we reach the end of it, you will not be able to read the word tears in your Bible the same way again. Her name was Hagar. She was Egyptian. She was a slave. She had not chosen any of the circumstances of her life, and she would not be given a vote in the ones that followed. Her mistress was a woman named Sarai, wife of a man named Abram, to whom God had made an enormous promise. The promise involved descendants as numerous as the stars. There was only one problem. Sarai was barren. Years had passed. The stars still outnumbered the children. So Sarai made a decision. She gave Hagar to Abram as a secondary wife because in the ancient Near East, children born through a slave could legally be counted as the mistress's own. Hagar had no say. She was property arranged to carry a promise she had never been told about. When she became pregnant, the household fractured. Sarai treated her harshly. The text does not soften it. Hagar ran, a pregnant slave, alone, into the desert on a road that led to nowhere good. And beside a spring of water in the wilderness, a messenger of God found her. The angel asked her 2 questions. Where have you come from, and where are you going? She could answer the first. She could not answer the second. She was running. That was the whole plan. God told her to go back. He told her the child's name, Ishmael, which in Hebrew means God hears. He told her about the boy's future. He told her he had seen her suffering, and Hagar, a slave, an Egyptian, a woman with no legal standing in any court in the ancient Near East, did something nobody else in the entire Bible does. She gave God a name. She called him El Roi. In Hebrew, it means, "The God who sees me," she said, out loud. "Have I really seen the one who sees me?" 4,000 years later, that name is still in your Bible. But her story does not end there. Years later, after Isaac was born, after the household fractured again, Hagar was sent away. This time with her son, Ishmael, now a teenage boy. Abraham gave her bread and a skin of water and pointed toward the desert of Beersheba. The water ran out. Ishmael was dying, and Hagar did something a mother does when she has nothing left to give and cannot watch what comes next. She put her son under a bush, the only shade she could find, and she walked away, about a bowshot's distance. Far enough not to see his face when it happened, and she wept. She did not pray loudly. She did not announce her grief. There was no congregation, no priest, no family member within 1,000 miles, nothing but sand and silence, and the sound of a mother crying where no one could hear. Here's what most people miss. The text does not say, God heard Hagar crying. It says, God heard the voice of the boy, and then God spoke to Hagar directly. Not a vision this time, not a messenger on a road, but a voice from heaven calling her name. What is wrong with you, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. He opened her eyes. She saw a well of water she had not seen a moment before. The same God who found her beside the spring the first time. The same God who let a slave woman name him. Found her again in the same desert, on the worst day she had ever had. El Roi, the God who sees. He was not looking away. Her name was Hannah, and her story has a detail in it that breaks your heart the moment you notice it. She was one of 2 wives of a man named Elkanah. The other wife, Peninnah, had children. Hannah did not, and the text says something that lands hard if you read it carefully. It says Elkanah loved Hannah. He gave her a double portion at the feast. He said to her, year after year, "Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" He meant it as comfort. It arrived as proof that he did not fully understand, because he had children. He did not know what it felt like to be barren in a culture where barrenness meant failure and shame and the unspoken suspicion that God had closed your womb as a judgment for something you could not name. And Peninnah knew exactly how to use that wound. Year after year, the text uses those words specifically, year after year. Peninnah provoked Hannah at the very moment when it would cut deepest. At the annual feast, at the worship gathering. In the place where Hannah went to seek God, Peninnah turned the temple into a battlefield. The Hebrew word used to describe Hannah's soul in that first chapter is marar. It means bitter, not sad, not grieving. Bitter, the kind of pain that has been sitting inside you long enough to change the taste of everything. Hannah went to the temple and wept, not the kind of weeping that draws attention. The text says her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. She was not performing. She was not staging a scene. She was speaking, crying out, really, from a place so deep in her chest that no sound could climb out. Eli the priest watched her from nearby. He drew the wrong conclusion. He told her to put away her wine. He thought she was drunk. She looked at him and said, "No, my lord. I am a woman troubled in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink. I have been pouring out my soul before God." Eli sent her away with a blessing. She went home. The text says her face was no longer sad. Nothing had changed yet. She was still barren. Peninnah was still in the same house. The years of grief had not been erased, but she had been received. Stay with me, because this is the pattern. Not that God repairs everything the moment you cry, but that God, unlike the priest who misread her, unlike the husband who tried but could not fully grasp it, unlike the rival who turned her pain into a weapon, God received her exactly as she was. The very next verse says, "The Lord remembered Hannah. She named her son Samuel." The name carries the sound of the Hebrew phrase, "I asked the Lord for him." But there is another layer most people miss. The root of the name also holds the word heard. Every time that name was spoken in her house, every time she called him down the hall for dinner, every time she told someone his name, it was declaration, "I was heard." She had wept so privately that no sound came out. And she named her son after the fact that God heard it anyway. If this video is doing something in you right now, if there's a name, a year, a specific night that just came to mind, stay with me. We have not reached the deepest part of this yet. Before we go further, if you have not subscribed, do that now. And if you know someone who is carrying something they have not told their family, someone whose face looks fine on Sunday, but whose Tuesday nights tell a different story, share this with them. Now let's keep going. His name was Joseph. He was 17 years old when his brothers sold him. The text is clinical about it. They saw him coming from a distance. They conspired against him. They stripped him of his coat. They threw him into a pit. They sat down to eat bread. They sat down to eat. And then they sold him to a caravan of Ishmaelite traders for 20 pieces of silver. They took his coat, slaughtered a goat, dipped the coat in the blood, and brought it to their father Jacob. They watched their father tear his clothes. They watched him weep. They watched him refuse to be comforted, saying he would go to his grave mourning his son. And they said nothing. The years that followed were not kind to Joseph. He was taken to Egypt as a slave. He served faithfully in Potiphar's house. He was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife. He was thrown into prison. He interpreted dreams for two men, the cupbearer and the baker. He asked the cupbearer to remember him when he got out. The cupbearer forgot. For 2 more years, Joseph sat in a prison in Egypt. He was not home. He was not free. He was not consoled by anyone who knew his name. Here is where the story turns, and here is where the tears begin. The famine came. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. Joseph recognized them the moment they bowed before him. They did not recognize him at all. He did not announce himself, not yet. He questioned them. He demanded they bring his younger brother Benjamin. He put them in custody for 3 days. He listened to them talk among themselves in Hebrew, thinking he could not understand. And they said, "In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother. We saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen." 22 years had passed, and his brothers were still carrying it. Joseph turned away from them. He turned away from them, and he wept. Then he turned back and spoke to them in Egyptian and gave orders. He kept Simeon and sent the rest home. He could not let them see, but God saw. The second time they came, this time with Benjamin, his only full brother, the only other son of Rachel. Joseph saw the boy, and something in his chest moved before his mind could stop it. The text says his compassion grew warm, and he was about to weep, and he rushed out of the room, found his own private chamber, and wept there, his chamber. Behind a door, alone, he washed his face, composed himself, came back out and served the meal. But it gets stranger, the third time. After, the brothers were caught with Joseph's silver cup planted in Benjamin's sack. After Judah stood before him, and gave the most extraordinary speech in the book of Genesis. offering himself as a slave in place of Benjamin so that the old father would not have to grieve a second son. Something finally gave way. Joseph sent every servant out of the room. He and his brothers were alone. And then Joseph wept, and the text says it was so loud the Egyptians heard it. The house of Pharaoh heard it. And he said, in Hebrew, the language of home, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? 22 years of private grief. 3 separate moments of hidden tears. One moment where the seams finally gave way. Here's the part nobody tells you. In the story of Joseph, through slavery, through prison, through forgotten years in a cell, a phrase appears 3 times. Once in Potiphar's house, once in the prison, once in the palace. The phrase is this: the Lord was with Joseph. Not that Joseph was managing well. Not that Joseph had a positive mindset. The Lord was with Joseph, in the slave quarters, in the cell, in the private chamber where he turned away from his brothers because he could not let them see him cry. God was in every room where Joseph wept alone. Now we come back to the verse from the beginning. The man who wrote it was David, king of Israel, the one God called a man after his own heart, the one who wrote more than half the Psalms, the one who danced in the street when the ark came home and composed so honest that generations of grieving people have borrowed his exact words to survive their own worst nights. Psalm 56. The title tells you when it was written. During his capture in Gath, where Goliath was from, David had fled there, of all places, after years of being hunted by Saul, and the servants of the Philistine king recognized him. He was deep in enemy territory, afraid, surrounded, not sure what was coming next. And in the middle of that psalm, he wrote, "You have kept count of my tossings. You have put my tears in a bottle. Are they not in your book?" Slow down. Read that again. A bottle, a vessel, a record. The Hebrew word for bottle there is node, a wineskin, a leather flask. Something you carry with you. Something you keep. Something you do not misplace. In the ancient world, you stored things of value in sealed vessels: wine, oil, grain, water in the desert, things worth preserving, things you would mourn if you lost them. David is saying, God stores my tears the way people store what matters most to them. Not one tear wasted, not one night of weeping that fell to the floor and disappeared. Everyone caught, kept, recorded in a book. This is the God who found Hagar in the desert twice, the God Hannah named her son after, the God who was with Joseph in 3 separate rooms where he wept where no one could see. Now watch what happens next, because there is one more story, and it is the one that should undo everything. Think of the last time you cried truly alone. Not alone in a room where you could hear people moving in the next room. Truly alone, the kind of alone where there was no one coming. No one who knew exactly where you were. No one who would knock. Most people have had at least one night like that. The Garden of Gethsemane was that kind of alone. Jesus took 3 disciples with him, Peter, James, and John. He walked a little further in. He said to them, "My soul is deeply, utterly sorrowful." The Greek word is paralipos, unto death. Stay here with me. He walked a little further still. He fell to the ground. He prayed. He asked if the cup could pass. He came back. They were asleep. He went and prayed again, the same words. Came back. Asleep a 3rd time. Still asleep. The writer of the letter to the Hebrews, writing decades after that night, from a distance of reflection, says this about what happened in that garden. In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications, with loud crying and tears, to the one who was able to save him from death. Loud crying and tears. The Son of God wept alone in a garden while the people closest to him slept. The one who is named El Roi, the God who sees, came himself in human flesh and cried in a place where no one was awake to witness it. He cried the way Hagar cried, face wet in a desert with no one around. He cried the way Hannah cried, lips moving and no sound coming out. He cried the way Joseph cried, face turned away so the room would not see. He cried the way David cried, not after the storm, but inside it. He cried the way you have cried, and here is what that means. The bottle David described, the one that holds every tear, is not the gesture of a God watching from a comfortable distance, curious about human pain. It is the journal of someone who has been there. The God who collects tears collected them because he knows exactly what they weigh. He has wept them himself. 3 things before you go. The first, your private grief has been witnessed. Every tear you cried where no one could hear you, in the car, in the shower, at 3 a.m. with your face in a pillow, was not unobserved. You did not cry alone. You cried in front of the God who invented the concept of being seen and named himself after it. The second, being seen by God does not mean your pain is immediately resolved. Hagar was sent back into the household before she was ever freed. Hannah waited years before Samuel was born. Joseph wept 3 separate times before the day he could finally say, I am Joseph. Being held is not the same as being fixed, but being held is real, and it comes first. The third, and this is the one I want you to sit with before this video ends. The same God who said to Hagar in the desert, I see you, is the same God who pressed his own face to the ground in Gethsemane and wept while his friends slept. He did not observe human pain from a distance and pity it. He entered it. He sat in it. He cried through it. The book David described, the one that holds every tear, has entries in it that are his. A garden at night. Whatever you are carrying right now, whatever you have been hiding behind a steady voice at the dinner table, whatever has been too heavy to say out loud, whatever you have been performing your way around for weeks or months or years, that thing has not gone unnoticed. You have been seen. Which of these stories reached you today? Was it Hagar in the wilderness, Hannah in the temple, Joseph turning away from his brothers, or Jesus alone in the garden? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. If this video found you at the right time, share it with someone who needs to know that their hidden tears have not been hidden from God. I'll see you in the next one.